There's this interesting theory I've seen brought up a few times now. Well, over the years, I've seen it brought up a few times, which is the reason the internet became sort of what it is now, which is a bloated mass of ads and trackers where most of the content is centralized on platforms owned by about five giant impersonal corporations, right? A situation that is not ideal, shall we say, is because the precedent was set early that people should expect content on the internet to be free. And that if the precedent had been set that one should expect content to be paid, then this never would have happened. Which is, I think, a really interesting theory. I'm not here to say whether it's completely true or completely misleading. I think it's partially true. I think it's partially got a few problems. I'll get into that. But the theory goes that because on the early internet you could basically have a whole career sustained by one or two banner ads on your website, everything was free because advertising was incredibly lucrative. Then there was a crash and so on. Advertising had to become, blah 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 blah. The only people that could afford to host free content were giant mega corporations, and the average Joe like us couldn't afford couldn't make the decision, couldn't justify the upkeep costs for an internet-based job, for free without having a paid service. Because you can't. It's not the early 2000s anymore. You can't keep a website up with just a couple of banner ads. The idea being that if the precedent had been set early, that content should be expected to be paid for with money, maybe more like a movie, right? Like you go to a cinema, you pay for a movie ticket, and you get to see the movie. You go to someone's website, you pay for a website ticket, and then you get to see their blog. That way, people would have easily been able to sustain themselves on the internet because you could charge fairly cheap prices. You don't have to charge massive amounts if you have a decently sized audience. You could charge $1 or less and still make enough money for at least covering hosting costs and maybe some basic living expenses, particularly if you have another job on the side, right? Or if you're on multiple websites or whatever, multiple income streams, that would be much better. And the idea being that if that had been the case, then there wouldn't have been the incentive for giant mega corporations to come and take over because they were the only ones that could offer free services. That if people had come to expect that internet content would be paid for, anyone would be able to sustain a career, or maybe not even a career, but just justify to themselves having a large internet presence that is self-hosted and decentralized, because the costs would be covered by people paying to see it. Because you're still paying to see internet content, you just don't pay with money, you pay with normally seeing ads or selling data about yourself. I don't know, I think that's an interesting theory. And one interesting part of this theory is that we kind of have come full circle back to that, in that it is incorrect, really, to say that internet content creation still exists as an ad-based medium. It doesn't. It exists as a Patreon-based medium. It exists based on donations. Every person who makes a living, most people who make a living on the internet, have some form of, at least part of their income, if not the majority of their income, comes from donations. Twitch streamers is one of the most crazy examples, because Twitch streamers not just make a little bit of money off donations, they make pretty much all of their money off donations, right? And they make loads of fucking money. Even reasonably successful Twitch streamers are rich. The most successful Twitch streamers are incredibly rich. Donations make you so much more money. I did a calculation the other day. Because I haven't actually followed through with my plan yet, because I haven't actually caught a stream. But some of you may know, one of my favourite YouTubers / streamers is a guy called Simple Flips. And I did a calculation. I looked at how many videos he had on his channel. I assumed that I've watched every single one of his videos, right? I use AdBlock, so I've never seen an ad in his videos. I assume that I've seen every single one. and that the CPM, like how much technically, I mean, it varies a lot, but the average is that one view on a YouTube video is worth 0.01 cents. And I figured out that, well, it depends on a lot of things, it varies. And I figured out that if I had actually watched all of his videos and watched an ad or two on every single one of his videos, right, I would owe him $5, right, for watching every single one of his videos. So I've been saying, like, one day, when I actually finally caught a Simple Flip stream, donated $5, said, sorry for using adblock on your videos, here's all the money you would have made with me watching them. What a great entertainer he is. If I did that, you know, that would be paying my way for literally probably, like, just so many hours of entertainment with $5. Like, that is not like, it's amazing that that ever worked. You know, this sort of, the ad-based model just doesn't work. And no one uses it anymore. Everyone uses donations. I use donations. Yeah, some people have locked content. Like, my thought was indie game developers normally sell their games for money, so that's one income stream. But also, I challenge you to find an indie game dev who has an internet presence, like not just one who just releases a game every so often and isn't like a personality. Not that those exist anymore, because people want, you know, having an internet personality be part of your brand means you're going to sell more. So most people try and do that. But I challenge you to find one that doesn't have a Patreon. They all have Patreons. All the YouTubers you watch have Patreons. YouTube has a join button now, which is like the Twitch sub button. Everything is paid now. So, you know, you could make the argument that that is what the internet has become. And yet, you know, it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked. We're still locked, like most of the internet is the modern web. You know, like 5 websites owned by giant mega corporations because they're the ones that cover hosting costs and provide the infrastructure and stuff. I don't know, like, if that's the case, like, we basically do have a paid internet right now, and it hasn't worked, right? Like, people don't use personal websites and decentralization on a wide scale. You know, there's lots of great stuff with regards to that, and most of it's free, which is weird, right? Like, most of the stuff that is, the vast majority of the stuff that is not on these giant platforms, like people's personal blogs, stuff like that, the small internet, all of these sorts of things, are free. Run by individuals who just do them for fun. Maybe they have a donation, maybe they have the possibility to donate. Some of them don't. Some of them just do it for fun. Because the internet doesn't have to be a place for you to make money. It could just be a place that you use for fun. I don't make money doing these videos. You know, I do it because it's fun. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I'm very skeptical of this theory. The other reason I'm very skeptical of this theory is not necessarily because of that it's like flawed, that it might not have been true, that like if the internet had been paid, blah blah blah. Maybe not because it's wrong in that way, more because it might be ethically wrong. You know, saying all content should be paid on the internet is saying poor people shouldn't have access to certain content, which is a bit suspect. Poor people, you know, if you put your content out on the internet for free, I don't know, like saying I can't put it in clearer words. Saying all content on the internet should be paid is saying poor people shouldn't have access to the internet, which is, yeah, don't like that attitude at all. It seems a bit suspect, suspicioso. So make of that what you will. Gotta just intake everything. So I don't know if I really have anything else to add to that. Should the internet be a paid, like, should people, like, would that have helped? Maybe, possibly, in fact, quite probably, but should it have been the thing that happened? No. The thing that should have happened, really, is, like, a much better way of fixing this problem than having, like, if you can go back in time and fix the problem of how did the internet become full of spyware and whatever. Like, the actual way to fix the problem, the better way, is not that that is also completely disregarding the fact that there wasn't good ways to pay for things over the internet for a very long time, and the best way to pay for things over the internet for a very long time was PayPal, which is owned by a centralized company, blah, blah, blah. So you're not really escaping centralization. So yeah, managing money, like that's a big legal thing that you have to do, managing people paying you money, and like declaring taxes and all that stuff, which is a big hurdle to entry for creating stuff on the internet, which most people don't want to do if they're not expecting to make a lot of money off of it. I don't think it would have happened either way. And I don't think people would have paid for it. But, like, piracy would have just been, I don't know. I just see it as completely like something that would never have happened. But if you could go back in time and change something about the development of the early internet, I think there would be a much cleaner solution to this problem, which is get the boomers who are in charge of the government to take it seriously 20 years ago, instead of only just realizing that there's a problem and desperately trying to fix it with no idea how. Legislate early and hard. That would have been the actual best way to make sure this never happened. Legislate early and hard. Make strict legislation about tracking and privacy and stuff like that. Have strict regulations about browsers and what they can do, like how, all of this sort of stuff would have been much better. Not so much, because all of the legislation on the early internet was focused around copyright. Not around protecting users' privacy, because they didn't care until they suddenly realized, oh fuck, what have we done? And even now they barely care. Well, at least politicians don't actually care about anything. They just care about getting voted in again. And if things stay the same and people aren't having a noticeable disadvantage, then they have no motivation to change anything. And especially if they're getting lobbyists and whatever. I don't know, there's pressure on them to do stuff about it now, right? There's pressure on them, but they haven't done enough. But all of that aside, doing stuff now is too late. You can't legislate away the problems that you've created efficiently. This is a problem with government. It is incredibly bureaucratic and inefficient, and very affected, vulnerable to big corporations with lots of money and what they want over the public. This is a big problem with government as a concept. And, one of the reasons I really don't like it. So, maybe legislation is a bad idea, but you can't rely on the goodness of people's hearts for something like this. Not under capitalism, at least. Because people need money to survive, and they're going to do whatever they can do to get that money because they need it to live. And corporations are going to try and get as much money as possible. Sorry, I don't know why I'm going on a rant about capitalism in this video. This wasn't what this was supposed to be about. Although it kind of was, because the idea of paying money for a service that could be free versus being served ads to pay for it. There's a show called Maniac, which is a really good TV show that I like. And in that show, they have something called an ad buddy. It's like a cyberpunk show. They have something called an ad buddy, which is like, let's say you go for coffee, and you don't want to pay for the coffee, or you can't afford the coffee. Instead of paying, you can pay for it via ad buddy, and then an ad buddy person will come, and they'll sit next to you while you drink, and they'll just read a bunch of ads to you, for like an hour or whatever. They'll just read a bunch of ads to you and try and sell you stuff, instead of paying with money. That's a really interesting concept for a sci-fi thing. I really liked that. Check out Maniac. Great show. So yeah, is that how the world is going to become? I don't know. I'm suspicious of this theory. Is the only thing I want to say. Is that I'm suspicious of this theory that the idea that everything should have been free is what caused this mess in the first. Yeah, fuck you. Okay, I'll pirate whatever I want. Not only is everything that is made to be free to me, everything that I can get access to is free to me, and I feel absolutely no guilt about it. So yeah.